Oh, there's a footnote. Now, yeah, so you can dob me in. Am I technically on a public road? My MOT is not going to be, not to the garage, but until Tuesday. Right, now I care about only two things. Oh, by the way, there's a little bit of a hook coming in here. One, I wish to have time free to carry on, to get back into reading books, because reading books is different to anything that comes onto the screen. Anything. I've looked for good material for 15 years on the screen. Nah, it's different reading books. And that's how organised I am. Everything has its little place. Right. But more important, ego. Turning the camera on, or rather, having your head together so much that before you turn your battery charger on to charge my laptop up, you actually have the damn thing plugged in. So you're not wasting one thimbleful of electricity. It's one of the things I don't understand, electricity. Right, fraud. Now, I was actually a pretty early adopter of internet technologies. I was actually the first internet bookseller in a whole region of about 100 book selling operations 4 years ago. No, actually, I was the first equal. There were a couple of us, and they would deride at first. Now, I backed out of the internet because it does take away from your creativity. Turning a computer on, the damn thing's breaking all the time, and I'm an expert. I can take to pieces a laptop and get it working again. I can crack Windows, blah blah blah. It all takes away from your real philosophical creativity. So I saw crowdfunding coming along, a bit suspicious. What are they doing? Taking 10%. Essentially, we're divesting 10% of projects to American organizations. So be it. Fraud. Now, I have, you could say, more than anybody else in Britain, certainly this century, if not for 30, 40 years, the law on naming and shaming in my name. Now, I say to people, and this is basically true, it's very difficult. I kind of have a little... I've been going around with my camera doing all sorts of things for 12 or 13 years. I say two things. First of all, in terms of ever publicising or publishing, the definition of publishing being putting something in the public domain. In terms of publishing stories of crony corruption, individual corruption, law breaking, being over the line is just the best way of putting it. Now, I know that most of my civilian encounters behave at times over the line. I think the rule kind of needs to be if somebody is taking public money, or, now that's become complicated because self-promoting yourself on Facebook, I don't, but I've seen, particularly as of about 10 years ago, all sorts of people who I know what they're like. I've been inside their lives consistently. They're shabby, lost, confused, don't know what they're doing, and often doing more harm than good. I particularly speak in respect of people who pretend to be operational in environmentalism and in egalitarian regional politics. A lot of them. Total lost, confused disaster. But we have the kind of level below the people officially operating, those who are on the bandwagon, sometimes selling their products. I could name a few, but they're also virtue. Okay, this has only been around a few years. This phrase, virtue signaling. They ally themselves with all sorts of goody causes in the region. Now, what's the definition of taking money? So if you're promoting yourself actively via something that either some institute or entity, in other words, not a person, I suppose, and that, because that can be a charity or whatever, is sort of encouraging you, or you have a kind of symbiotic relationship with that entity, which is somehow being funded either from the public purse or by official charitable setups, and you also somehow are benefiting from that. It might not be overt. I think there comes a point where you have to, it's terribly difficult, but where's the line for who's taking public money or getting public recognition via their Facebooks, etc.? Now, if somebody's, in other words, creating a myth about themselves, which seems to be really rather prevalent the last decade, and I more or less in the courts invented the concept the citizen will be allowed to publish a lot more themselves than prior the law I changed. Well, it's really hard to know who to, I don't like the phrase name and shame, but call out. Who? There's another vehicle. Oh, is it? It's him. Oh, he waves. He goes out to get his paper and comes back. This is, yeah, right. It's really hard. Let's use the phrase, the words, call out, okay? To know where the line is. That's the deepest philosophical question there is. But fraud. Now, so I saw crowdfunding developing as a thing. Suspicious. All looks a bit wonky to me. And with somebody 7 or 8 years ago, we did a totally pure little campaign. She was a musician. But anyway, as of 4 or 5 years ago, now, I say to people in the region, I've never met anybody worth calling out. I think somebody has to be worth calling out. They have to be so arrogant, full of themselves. Well, the first time I actively monitored a crowdfund, about 5 years ago, 6 years ago, 5 years ago, I know it was a total fraud. Let's just say several people, I think of regions, 30-mile circles, several people I actually knew, kind of had known them in the past. They were Portuguese wildfires, and a lot of people from the region, Herefordshire, etc., have set themselves, in other words, they can afford to buy a second patch of land there, home, where they'll probably illegally build a cabin, ignoring local planning rules, because they're like that. They're above all the kind of rules that apply to everybody else. And they set themselves up as gurus, mindfulness, all sorts of wellness, holistic operations, homespun operations, just kind of usually one woman, actually. Some men as well. Anyway, so the Portuguese fires came along, and I saw lots of films going up with begging bowls, and they always put a child at the beginning, looking all sorrowful, and Iron Audi kind of music, really emotive stuff, like child with burnt laptop. And the way they were written up implied this was their only abode, and they'd lost everything. Now, quite a few of these people are actually spending time there because they're unlawfully claiming tax credits and that kind of thing. They're more or less living there, but officially still based here, and still claiming child tax credits. I actually know of situations where this was happening, without any doubt. Now, I'm not going to name anybody. I'm not going to call anybody out. But, I saw that just like, nah, this is fraud. I knew some of the people who were sort of connected and who were contributing and who were spreading and putting on walls. Now, this is fraud, okay? But that kind of fraud's almost impossible to properly quantify. But then I even saw a few coming up last in 2020. As soon as things loosened up, no, not things loosened up. As soon as the normal suspects got used to the new situation as of spring 2020, I started to see the same kind of people. They all pretend to be these ultra sweet, humble people, musicians, and just such lovely people. No, they were putting up fraudulent campaigns, trying to fund potential festivals. But then there was one in particular where, on the first word, I have this all written and I have it all captured, screen grabbed. Not for anything, I just like to chronicle what's really going on. I would never call this person out. I've had dealings with this person. The first word for a £5,000 crowdfund for making music, and the person concerned does have an extraordinary voice, but the first word was charity. Charity songs or charity music. There was nothing in the doodah, the write-up, about a registered charity or where this money is going to be going to charitably. You know, that's fraud. And yeah, beware, there's a lot of fraud about. And anybody can shadow me. Every waking hour of my life. I don't do fraud. I know where the line is. On rewards. This is the thing I hate. I've been monitoring, what kind of things do people put? It's potential rewards. It's actually all a bit controlling. Pay £10, you will get this. Pay £500, you will get this. And it just occurred to me this morning. Pay £200, you tell me what your reward is. I don't know what people really want, and I'm not going to tell you what to want. That's the thing. Now, as long as it doesn't take more than a couple of hours of my concentration, I don't care. And as long as it's legal, it's as simple as that. So, but what I want, because that's all that matters, what I want is straightforward people who, anybody can see anything. I mean, I will, assuming it remains appropriate. What do I mean by that? That means as long as the Sackler Foundation, and that's intelligent. Before you jump to conclusions, you've got to watch the film on that, okay? If they phone me up and say, oh Christ, you got 10 million quid here immediately, and but you've got to take everything offline. Well, there may be a decision to make if Universal Pictures phone up and say, no, we want everything, and you're going to have the highest budget. By the way, I don't believe in the best budget being the best product. No, it's the product. Nothing is going to change me. Even if someone put 50 million quid on the top of that hill and said, right, here's your, no, this is how you think, because there's some difficult matters within even film number one, and you wait, the kairos comes at some point, you figure, and you may not be right, but you figure, okay, that's the best compromise solution as to how to present something or what to say about it. Even though in a film you're not telling people what to think. End of Captain Fantastic is superb because it doesn't tell us what to think. Rachel Kushner's book, The Mars Room, is the best book I've read for 30 years because she doesn't tell us to pity anybody. She doesn't, anyway, there we go. Blah, blah, blah. No nonsense people who are not going to drain my energy and concentration, and who, now I could do this with anybody I've met for a long time, but if there's full, accurate records of everything kept, you can say to people, look, I didn't say that, I said that, or I wrote this. Accurate communication, so as not to waste time. All malcontentment just wastes time. Time, the good time, the healthy, nurtured, centered time when you need to be taking the thing forward. See, if I keep a tally, it's of every moment of my time that somebody's wasted. And it seems that, especially since the pandemic, so many people seem to need this more than ever. They need to be stuck in a little psychodrama with somebody. And I know I'm in the wrong by not being like that. I'm the weirdo. I'm the incongruity. Well, basically, I'm doing things my way. If you need a psychodrama, you're applying to the wrong person. Yeah, but the crowdfunding. Was there anything else that I was rambling on about? No. Yeah, I want associates, people who ain't going to waste my time. I'm going to get to the point and sometimes follow orders, although one doesn't like to be like that. But preciousness is the enemy of everything. I established that about 18 years ago. Yeah. Be useful. And if things are clearly written out, clearly agreed, not in an officious way, but having some people along as colleagues, associates, equals, who, if they can make something of a little area of particularly film number one, they will benefit. It's as simple as that. That's what I want to put up in my rewards. Maybe it'll be something like pay £100 and you can join a lottery, or you can be interviewed in person to be an actual hands-on associate. Or maybe we need virtual associates, but I'm sorry, virtual, well, there's been some actually good things on the BBC radio like 4 or 5 months ago. Sort of slightly comedic people, comedians, sort of social commentators. I knew this 10 years ago, okay? They actually started saying, we all discovered Zoom was great for a while, but you don't make money via it. People don't pay you. You don't develop the relationship, the trusting, real relationship through this screen, such that people actually change. They change their mind, they change their action, in other words, fall in with you and have some mutually beneficial commercial relationship. So it's all a load of pants. Blah-de-blah. Yeah, I don't know. If somebody says, put a reward up, £1,000, and you can have a lock of my daughter's hair, well, yeah. It's just for a purpose. It's all for a purpose. The purpose is greater than all sensibilities and all preciousnesses, as long as it's legal. As long as I've got time left to wander the hills.